to share your story with us. Kind of introduce yourself, a little bit about who you are, sans concussion.
Right.
So you're not just Angela with a concussion, you're Angela.
Yes.
And so I want to know a bit about who you are first.
Okay, so it's funny because I have trouble answering that, not because I'm struggling with the answer, it's because it feels like I have become and with like who I am now from the accident. So to sort of separate myself from it, it's sort of at this point a bit impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so my name is Angela. I'm 34. I live in Ontario, but most of my 20s I lived abroad. I've traveled the world. I love Asia. I've lived there twice, and Scotland, like traveling, surfing, cycling. I'm a yoga teacher. I also teach mixed martial arts and medical qigong. So yeah, so that's sort of like a very Coles Notes version of who I was. Really active, really social, came from a musical background. Yeah, that was me. That is me still, sort of, yeah.
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 And so tell me, so what happened and when?
So the accident was November 15th of last year, so just over 9 months ago now. Okay. Just a regular Wednesday morning, I was on my bicycle and I was heading to work, and a pickup truck went through a stop sign and T-boned me. So that was the accident.
Okay. Okay.
I was taken by ambulance to the hospital, where I initially it was sort of, I was obviously in shock. I was pretty hilarious at the scene. I was super worried about my bicycle. All I kept asking is my bike okay? It's a classic. Like, I was so concerned about my bike. I wasn't wearing a helmet, and it was a chilly day. So I remember, like, I went to go on my bicycle and it was chilly. So I went back into my house to change my footwear because I was wearing slip-on shoes. So I put on like leather boots and I put on a leather jacket and gloves, which saved me a lot. And I was wearing a backpack, which I normally don't wear. And I think the backpack prevented my head from hitting the ground. But yeah, so my initial injuries were hands, hips, knee, and neck. But I didn't hit my head and I wasn't unconscious, but I definitely got really bad whiplash.
Okay. Okay. So when did you first start noticing, so what were the kind of the first concussion symptoms you started noticing? And did you get that diagnosis like in the hospital right away, or when did it click for you?
I was so in the hospital. I never want to be a burden, so I kept saying how fine I was, but I was in shock. And so we had x-rays done and air casts and stuff, and I was released. And then, everybody kept warning me that I was going to feel a lot worse the next day. So I was prepared for it. So it took about 3 days after the accident for me to be like, I need to get some fresh air. And so I was feeling like, okay, I could go outside. And so my boyfriend, who I lived with at the time, I got in the car to drive to a flat park with a path because I knew I really needed to start small. And it was when I was in the car, that was the first thing I remember noticing, that the lights were brighter, the movement, I was so dizzy, I felt really nauseous, but I wasn't putting it together yet that it was any concussion stuff. I was thinking it was the medication I was on, or it could have been anything. So the accident was like on a Wednesday. I was in the hospital, and that first outing was, I think, the day before my first visit with my family doctor.
Okay.
So me just sort of saying the things the next day to her was when she diagnosed me as saying, your whiplash has, I'm pretty sure, created a concussion. you've suffered this, you're displaying the symptoms. But I didn't know what was going on because so much was going on. But
Right.
I remember the lights were brighter, moving. I was trying to walk and look at the ground and getting dizzy because I could see like the individual pebbles. And it
Mhm.
just seemed like walking through trees. Like I couldn't, I was just getting dizzy by things walking like over them and beside them, even though I was going super, super slow. It's not like I
You
wasn't
weren't
on a quick
sprinting.
pace. I was in no way sprinting. Yeah. And I couldn't figure out where to look because everywhere I looked, I was dizzy. So
Okay.
yeah. So it was about 5 days after the accident that my doctor diagnosed a concussion.
You got the diagnosis. Were
Mm-hmm.
you then given any guidance? Were you recommended to contact with a physical therapist? What information, if you remember, what information were you given to help get you through that acute stage of concussion?
The initial sort of my doctor's recommendations was obviously to rest. As she said, rest, do what you need to do. No screen time. Don't do like no screen time, nothing that's going to aggravate symptoms, like music and stuff like that. And she prescribed physiotherapy and working with an occupational therapist doing cranial sacral therapy. So she is amazing. She does so much stuff. And but she had said we needed to wait, so my OT wouldn't touch me for 6 weeks. I think I
Mhm.
went in at 4 for her to have and she was like, I don't even want to do it because it usually takes about 6 weeks for inflammation in the body to sort of go down. And she was like, I don't want to treat you yet. So really it was sort of like this bubble of a month to 6 weeks that I was really just prescribed rest and do nothing and find comfort. And yeah.
So talk to me a bit about, so now it's been 9 months.
Yep.
You started some treatment at about like the 6 weeks. Tell
Mm-hmm.
me a bit about your journey in terms of what have you had to shift in your life?
Okay. So I've had to change everything. I don't think that there's something in my life that hasn't been affected
Okay.
by this. From my social life, I was like really social before, and I'm slowly getting back into that now. But from social to home life, um, everything had to change. But it's hard to sort of like pinpoint what is specific to concussion
Mm-hmm.
and brain injury, because my body took such a beating that things like my frustration and anger and irritability and fatigue, like the fatigue has been, I suffered from insomnia my entire life and wasn't really ever tired from it. And to go from, not sleeping a lot to sleeping 12 hours a day and never feeling rested and doing something and needing a nap, um, I it's hard for me to distinguish between what was my body healing and what was my brain. But to separate them, it seems sort of silly because it works.
Okay.
I can't read. I have trouble, like just with identifying words. Whereas prior to the accident, I was a bit of an intellect, and now I feel like even my speaking I say it's like a dumbed down version of what I mean. So how I speak has changed. It's like I'm constantly searching for the word that I want, but I've gotten quicker at being able to use a filler word. So I'm not losing my way as much, because if I take a long time to say a sentence looking for a word, I forget what I was even saying at the beginning. So now it's like I can, yeah, but socially, it was just like people had to come to me, and it was like on a day-to-day basis, because I would feel different in the morning than I would feel in the afternoon, and I couldn't make plans, whereas like I would have things planned months in advance
Yeah.
prior to the accident. So it's like yeah, everything has been affected, and really even now it's day by day. And
What are the symptoms that you are still experiencing today, 9 months later?
um okay, so fatigue, that's a huge one. The mood thing, it's still difficult for me to deal with because I was never an irritable or angry person, and I'm finding I'm boiling a lot below the surface. It's like I have a short temper, and I'm not explosive with it. It's not like people are on a receiving end of it, but the feeling is still very. It's not me. It feels very different how I'm processing emotions.
Mm-hmm.
The light sensitivity is a huge thing. Sound, I have issues with certain sounds and being able to tell where the sounds are coming from. I struggle a lot with a lot of different things with my vision, which is I can't go from focusing close to far away at a rate that I could. Like I'm looking at my phone here, which is a couple feet from me for a bit.
Yeah.
So for the rest of the night now, I'll probably have an issue trying to look at things across the room. It seems like my
Okay.
eyes, yeah, they don't want to focus on what I'm doing if I've been doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And same with the scanning, which is another reason I can't read. I can't move
Yeah.
my eyes back and forth. And I get really overwhelmed with pages, like the words on a page, or if it's a menu or something like that with categories and different fonts, like forget it.
Too much.
I can't even, I don't even know where to start. It's like my eyes are just circling the
Yeah.
page. And yeah, my balance is really off. And as a yoga teacher, I'm very aware of that shift of going
Mm-hmm.
from, yeah, being able to understand my body and to compensate and to stabilize to now tipping over when I turn. So I use a cane because I
Okay.
need it for stability.
Because yoga is such a big part of who you were before,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you, like, that's how I found you on Instagram, was you were documenting kind of your yoga journey. So how have you used yoga to help you in your recovery?
Sometime in December, I really noticed that I needed something to do because I couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't listen to audiobooks, I couldn't watch TV, I couldn't socialize, I couldn't go for a walk. I was literally just like a prisoner in my body in my home. Like people taking care of me, like feeding me and stuff like this. So at about mid-December, I knew I needed my meditation practice back. And I always understood because people can be in an actual prison, and if they're like in their own internal space of like a calm, grounded, just that grounded surety within themselves, that you could be in any environment and still be okay. So I knew that was what I needed to do. So I downloaded the Calm app. I don't know if you know about the
The
Calm app.
calm, so we recommend Calm all the
Yeah,
time. I love it.
yeah, yeah.
Smiling Mind is another one we use.
What is it? Sorry, Smiling Mind?
Smiling Mind. Headspace is the other one.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've only used Calm.
It's a brilliant one. I love Calm.
Oh, I love it. So, that was sort of, and for me, I yoga and meditation for me have always gone hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to get that meditation practice back, that's I think what saved my headspace
Okay.
initially, because I needed my eyes closed so much anyway. And to listen to audiobooks, for whatever reason, I couldn't listen to stories. They were making me feel nauseous. But
Mm-hmm.
like a monotone, very simple guided meditation to clear it all away was the
Yeah.
only thing that I found that really had an effect
Yeah.
on me. And then I went from that to visualizing myself doing sun salutations, knowing that my body can respond the same to
Yeah.
visualization as through action. Um, But it's funny, like even visualizing myself moving was triggering symptoms.
It makes complete sense.
Yeah, so it's funny because I'm like, my body is reacting as though I'm moving, but I'm not. But it was trial and error. And even now, so much is trial and error. I won't know until I try. And I think it was maybe 3 months ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to use my body to begin a physical practice again. And it was so simple. I don't even know what I know I was on the ground. I think I did some like cat cow, child's pose, half sun cells. And I was getting so dizzy. But I just kept looking at like one spot on the floor and having that to be my point of focus and stopping when I needed to and knowing I wasn't going to push myself because I had been out of practice for so long.
Yeah.
So it was horrible, but it was great at the same time. It was so important for me to sort of take the weightiness of the absence away from the whole thing. Like I
Yeah.
just needed to just get on my mat and just to try it. And I did. And then I was progressing and doing a little more every day and using a chair. And I just got too excited too quick and I did too much. And it really set me back. I had to walk away from it again after about 20 days that I documented of my practice over about 45 days.
Okay.
That was like sort of I was really giving it an honest effort to see like maybe that day my symptoms were preventing me. If I took a break for 2 days and go back with a different approach, with a different thing, it was so much trial and error. That finally I just had to be like, I'm not there yet. It wasn't worth it for me in the end for where I was. Just, a few minutes a day of simple stretching or one pose because I'm like, I'm going to try it again and I'm going to go in different. And yeah, it is what it is. It's so important for me still. But I really don't know. It's all a crapshoot. I don't know what I should or shouldn't be doing. So I think knowing that there are different techniques for anything is more helpful, not necessarily needing to know what they are, but to know that
There's another
like
way.
it isn't like this isn't the only way. So if it's not working for you, it's not like visualization isn't working for you.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that
And
would have
that's
been
where I
it.
think it's so your team, so like we're talking
Yes.
teams a bit, and we've talked, I know we've messaged about this before. This is, I think I first
Yeah.
reached out to being like, who are you seeing? So I can like,
Yeah, you were
ah!
you were like the I don't know what your title is, I forget it, but you were like this, but this person in me needs to ask you,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? I hope you're not just like floundering alone through
Yeah.
the
Like I hope
abyss.
who makes up your team either at
Um,
this point and who's been a part of your team along the way.
right. So I'll say who's a part of my team today.
Yeah.
It hasn't been this big, but this is what it is today. So my family doctor, she's been an angel. So she's been my doctor for years, and I see her once a month. She does all the referrals, but she also does a lot of mental health stuff. So I'm in her office for an hour once a month. And so going to her office is really great. I was lucked out with a family doctor that we get along. And then my occupational therapist,
Yeah.
who I see once a week since December, probably like mid to late December. She uses various techniques on me, but we're still doing pretty gentle body work. My issue is I'm so sensitive, so I can't. This is why like I couldn't take medications after the accident. Like I'm so sensitive to touch and to injury and to healing, and so to do like any deep work, and we've had to like work up to the ability to be able to. Now we're starting to get a bit deeper into the tissues. So yeah, she's done cranial sacral and done a lot with like my spine, but does stuff with like knees, feet, head, a lot of the post concussion headache, plate work of the head, like pulling my tongue out, shifting the roof
Your
of my
palate.
mouth. Yeah, my palate, like I'll leave there feeling like she created so much space in my head and neck, because some of my symptoms, it's like the pressure, I feel like a pin cushion sometimes. Like it's just, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
So she's been great for post-concussion specific physical symptoms.
Yeah.
And then my physiotherapist, who him and my OT were both on the brain injury
Yeah.
board in Peterborough, which is really great. So I got referred to him, and he does myofascial release, and it's still gentle body work.
Mm-hmm.
I do some muscle stim on the body, like my knee and stuff, and I do like 5 minutes on the recumbent a week. And it's tricky because there's been so much stuff I've had to do through insurance, that these testing that insurance companies put me through, sort of like I regress a bit. So then we
Yeah.
have to heal back and get back into it. So yeah, we do some strength training, and then we have to go back to healing and strength training. But now all the insurance stuff is done. So that's my OT, my physiotherapist, my doctor. I'm with the Brain Injury Association of Ontario, which is
Okay.
funded through OHIP. So it's a free service. There's different private ones in town, but this one is really nice. So I go there once a month, and we work on strategies for specific ailments of coping and
Okay.
trying to work on me being independent. So really,
Yeah.
I want to be more independent, because I was very independent, and now it's really, I'm at the mercy of everyone. So that's really nice, and it's also like a mental health support. Like I can go there and just vent if I want to
Mm-hmm.
vent. So that's really helpful. I have a neurologist
Yeah.
who specializes in concussion and brain injury with return to function. That's his specialty. He's given me sort of his treatment plan
So
and
this is new for
strategies.
you, right?
New for me, yeah.
Okay.
So this just happened.
Okay.
So a neurologist. And then yesterday was my first appointment for vestibular therapy at another physiotherapy. But it's so sweet. My physiotherapist recommended vestibular rehab now, and my doctor and my neurologist all at the same time. Like I'm in this phase now that now I want to really be like outward with my approach of, yeah, like I want to be doing the work now, not laying on a table while people do
Yeah.
the work to me. I'm ready now to be doing the work.
Perfect. So first question.
Okay.
What is something you wish someone would have told you about concussion recovery in those first few months?
One thing.
One thing. If you take one thing, what would
it's in no way something that you can prepare for. You will have no idea what it is. And like, in no way after the accident did I think that over 9 months later I would be having the issues I'm having. And because everyone's story is so different, like you need to be prepared to like not be prepared. That yeah, like there's no cookie cutter, no one knows. Like yeah, it's a very unusual thing, but there's so much support. But yeah, like let go of your idea of what you think it could be, because you cannot plan for it. And I don't mean it all in like a sad doomy gloomy
no.
type way, because so much amazing things have come from this, of what I've learned about myself, my strengths. You stop caring about the things that you thought used to matter. Like it really, I feel like a better person because of it. But I couldn't have thought that this would still be going on, but nobody could. And so I had to let go of what I thought this situation could be, because you have no idea until you're going through it. And even then you still don't know.
You're
Like
still
I
learning.
said, I'm still learning. Every day is different. Like it's just, you just take it as it comes.
And so if you had to leave someone with some encouraging words that are experiencing their own journey of concussion, whether it's been 2 months, 2 years, 8 months, you know, it's the gambit, right? I mean, I treat people that
Yeah.
at 6 years post by the time they found us and they
Mhm.
make change.
Mhm.
So if you had to give, so that's would be mine, is it's never too late.
Oh,
Um,
that's helpful. I bet lots of people don't know that.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's, especially if things haven't even been addressed,
Right.
right? And I see it all the time.
I bet lots of people are going through life not even realizing that the things they're experiencing are related to a concussion or an injury that they can have treated.
Never too late. Our brain is plastic, right? Like
Yeah.
it changes. It's meant to change and evolve and grow. So that's my word of advice. I just went off on a tangent.
I don't remember the question.
Yeah,
What
I
was
know.
my
See,
advice?
I took over my question. If you had to leave
Yeah.
someone with a
Yeah.
positive word of encouragement, what would you say to them?
But, our hug's verbal because I just would want to give them a huge hug, first of all. As hard as it is, I think that that's like how great it can be. That you realize our ability to adapt, like the human capacity to adapt is enormous and it's infinite. It's not finite. Like we don't have a limit to like our ability to adapt. Like that's as far as we'll go. No, like no matter what happens to us, your body carries on. and 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 it's crazy to experience that happen firsthand of how much your brain and your body will take care of you when you feel like you have no control, like you're not yourself anymore, and you start to really experience your resilience, and because the recovery is non-linear, and I made a video about this before, I don't know if you saw it, these
There's
ups
ups
and
and downs.
downs, and you have to be prepared for the downs, and when you're in them it's always difficult to know that you will be fine, but you do come out of it, and yeah, it's just like watching how your body copes with the ups and downs. If you can
Mhm.
step back and really look at it, it's amazing. Like I've learned so much about myself in this process, and I think it's given me more empathy towards understanding other people, not even with
Mhm.
brain injury, concussion stuff, just people in general in life. People need time and patience and space,
Yeah.
and you learn that from all of the stuff that you start to learn about yourself, and what you want from other people is what you start giving to people. It's, yeah, I don't think I have one motivational inspirational thing to
Mhm.
say. It's just like the stuff you will learn is the stuff you can't unlearn. You can't unlearn how
That's
to
awesome.
like be more empathetic and understanding and conscious and aware of how you are. And yeah, and the ups, and it's just living, it's just a different way of living, but it's the same, I think.
And thank you for doing this and sharing your journey with me and with anyone who watches this.